So it was about 10 weeks ago already that I had received an email in my inbox, and it was Luke from MiiCoffee asking me if I would like to receive and review the CF64V, this grinder right here. And my initial impression, my first thought was, man, that is an ugly grinder. And I really didn't see all that much merit in covering it either, because it's kind of expensive. I try to do things that are a little bit more budget friendly, but this does have a couple things going for it that do make it more expensive. And so the story goes, Luke said, you know what, I'll just send you one, and if you like it, you can make a video. If you don't care to make a video, then you don't have to bother. But I thought, people are looking for this information. I should make a video now. I've already been using it for about 2 months now. So let's see if my initial impression has changed or not with this grinder. But before we go further, what are we looking at? What kind of grinder is it? This is a little bit of a different grinder because the burrs here are mounted vertically, kind of like the fellow Ode or like the Timor Sculptor. So you've got them mounted vertically, and that should help with retention. That also requires it to have an auger inside to push the beans here from where they drop in forward into the burrs. It's also got a different kind of motor. This is a 400 watt brushless DC variable motor, and therefore you can change it from 800 RPMs up to 1800 RPMs. And I think that's what makes this the most expensive, really. Now, I thought to myself, well, am I going to notice any difference with this RPM change? And I would say, so far, not really, but, maybe other people will. Let's just go ahead and listen one time real quick to the motor, how it sounds. And, okay, there's 3 operating elements on here. By the way, there is this toggle switch, and you'll see that it stays illuminated for a while after you turn it off. Still illuminated. Come on. Okay, now it's off. You could also hear the relay click off. I'm going to turn it on. You could hear the relay again. And yeah, you can switch here. So on the other side, you've got this silver button here. This is just a press button. And if you press it in, it turns on. Let's give it a shot. I'm going to go from 800 up to 1800. Okay, and so, oops. There's a few more things to talk about with this grinder. The burrs inside, as I mentioned, they're 64 millimeter DLC burrs. That stands for diamond-like coating on the burrs. What's interesting about that size is that you can switch these out for all different types of burrs. And I think that that's probably the biggest advantage of this machine, is the fact that you can put in SSP burrs. For example, you can buy those directly from the MiiCoffee website, and they got various ones. They got the SSP High Uniformity Espresso burrs. They've got the SSP Multi-Purpose burrs, which can be used for espresso and for pour over. And then they've got the Lab Suite burrs, V2 and V3. And all of these burrs are going to cost $185 extra. Now I'm using the stock burrs in here, and so far what I found is that they do a fine job for espresso, get some good body out of it, and kind of like what you would expect for a medium to dark roast espresso. Nice syrupy, gooey shots on the chocolatey side. They're good. As far as pour over is concerned, I would say these burrs are not really tuned for that. Now, I'm not an expert on pour over, but I've tried this many times for pour over on the setting of 50, 75, and 100, and I get brews that take quite a long time. And so I think this is producing really too many fines with the stock burrs for pour over. Something else to mention about this grinder is that it's got a Deionizer essentially in there. So what it does is it applies a potential to the particles coming out of the chute here. Now that's a good thing and a bad thing. So while those pins are clean, it's fine, and I did just recently clean them, it works okay. But it doesn't take long before those pins get covered with coffee grinds, and then they just don't work anymore. So then this thing starts splattering, particles all over. It's not a clean grinder. And wife acceptance factor on this grinder, bad. My wife does like how it looks, actually. I think it's ugly as sin. It's just you know, a couple rectangles. It reminds me of Minecraft, to be honest. My kids are playing that game right now, and it looks a lot like that. Besides here, this round element, and here the round bean hopper and bellows. Otherwise, it's really kind of like a Minecraft-inspired grinder. The bottom foot, by the way, is cast, as you can see there. And I mean, it's fine, but it doesn't give me the feeling of like a super duper high quality product. It does come with this catch cup, by the way, which has got a nice rubberized bottom. So that's, actually it's inset. Yeah, anyway, it's got a rubberized bottom. It's got a 58mm diameter here, so you can put it right onto a portafilter. That's kind of nice. It does stay in place well while you're grinding. From a functionality standpoint, the machine is fine. Adjusting the grind here leaves a little to be desired. It's like, right now it's smooth, but sometimes it's not that smooth. So it just, I guess it just kind of depends on how much remains stuck in there. And as far as retention goes, retention for me when I first started with this grinder was good, like 0.1 or 0. But as time goes on, and I think that has to do with grinds getting stuck here in the chute, I would end up with 0.3, 0.5 grams of retention. So retention on this machine, unless you keep it super clean all the time, not very good.
Getting value from this video? Please take a moment to like and subscribe.
All right, I'd like to go ahead and do our demo here and show you the grinder in use. I've got it set at about 23 on there, and that's a good range for me. Anywhere between 20 and 25 is where I've been for espresso. And I am using a freshly roasted espresso from a local roastery. This one is called Martermuehle Espresso Superiore. And it says that it's got 85% Arabica, 15% Robusta. So not that much Robusta in there, just a little bit, and that does help with a little bit of crema. So the more Robusta you have, the more crema. Anyway, it's supposed to have tasty notes of croquant, chocolate, and brown sugar. Let's see what we get out of it. I've already got 16.2 grams dosed out here. One complaint I do have about this, and about the DF54, by the way, is the fact that when you try to remove the lid, oftentimes the bellows likes to come with it. So I found a trick, however. You just kind of squeeze the bellows at the top, and then you can drop it in easily. We'll do a cold start and see what we get. I'm at 1800 RPMs. So it does make pretty quick work out of it, and it does look clean because I just cleaned the pins here. So what have we got out? 16.1. Right, so if the pins are clean, it does a good job and gets just about everything out. But if you let the pins get dirty, oh, well, that's weird. If you let the pins get dirty, then it's going to build up. So what you got to do is, this machine comes with this little white brush here, and you just stuff it up in there, twist it around, and that way you can clean the pins. All right, so if you do that on occasion, should be good to go. So you saw noise, not too bad, speed pretty good, retention good if the pins are clean. And okay, let's just go ahead now and make ourselves an espresso. So here we go. Let's see what we get here. Nice and empty, so not too staticky. And we'll do a little WDT as well. Give it a tamp. And let's see how our espresso tastes. Looking pretty good. Nice and syrupy, gooey, very nice. So you got a 1.4 or so flow rate there, 1.4 grams per second. And 2031, let's turn it off right there. And I'll switch it out. So, yep. That's our shot right there. A little stir and a little taste. It's smooth. It's what I would expect from the beans. If the machine is nice and warmed up, if you have the grind right, the dose right, do some distribution, I get really full body, little bit of bittersweet chocolate. I'm not getting the croquant or the brown sugar, but I am getting a little bit of something that reminds me of like amaretto, just a little bit of sweetness in there. It's all in all a good shot. And it's what I can say for this grinder is that it's giving me good shots for these kind of like, yeah, medium dark espresso beans. All right, at this point in the video, I would like to demonstrate a pour over coffee, because what I've determined actually is ever since having kept this really nice and clean, I do have fewer issues with these paper filters stalling. So that's a good thing, and we're just going to give that a shot here. Now I am using the Variofi 60 filters. These ones here, and I know these ones are not supposed to be the best. I guess that these have issues with clogging a little bit anyway in comparison to the ones that come in a cardboard box or the Cafec, but they work okay. So let's go ahead and just wet our paper here a little bit, get it stuck to the outside, warm up our brewer a little bit. And I got 15 grams here of like a medium, slightly lighter than medium roast decaf coffee. I'm on 70 here on the CF64V. And I'm at 800 RPMs. All right, so I'm not going to actually hit the bellows. I don't want the fines in my cup. So I'm just going to take this and see. 15 grams, not bad. I'm running water at 95 degrees. And I've got this time warp fish on a hold function to keep it at 95. And we're going to use Coffee Chronicler's recipe. So that it's a nice one because it's just a 2-stage recipe. I have gotten really good results from it in the past. We put in our first dose with it open, and then we put in a second dose with it closed, and then let it drain out. So let's go ahead and do that. And start the timer here. And put in our first dose of 120 grams. Okay. We let that go until 45 seconds. Then we're gonna close the valve. We're gonna add the second dose in, let that steep for 2 minutes, and then let it through. So the idea behind this recipe, and by the way, is this phase here is supposed to get all the brightness, all the juiciness out of the coffee beans. And then the second dose is to get a bit more body out of it. As I had mentioned before, I was having issues with stalling. I was having issues where this would take 5, 6, even 7 minutes sometimes. And I think the reason is because I was letting this get pretty dirty here. It was getting apparently full of fines, and that must have been getting into my brews and therefore making the times quite a bit longer. So you really do have to make sure that you keep an eye on that and keep it nice and clean. All right, 2 minutes, let her rip. Yep, that seems to be draining better than before. 2.5 minutes, got a little bit to go yet. All right, we're at 3:15 and it's just about finished draining. All right, it has drained out now. It's just a couple of drips. I'm gonna stop it there, 3:43. Actually, I can just do that. Okay. Let's see how the coffee is. Yeah, in the beginning when it's hot, it's just basically, it's a very mild coffee. If anything, I get just a little bit of shortbread or almost a wheat taste to it. As it cools down though, I do get a little bit more sweetness out of it. All right, it's been about 10 minutes off the brew now. Let's see if the tasting notes have changed at all. Tastes almost a little bit crisper, a little bit sweeter. But again, I'm certainly not a pour over expert by any means. I'm just a beginner. But what I do know based on research is that the burrs that are in here, the stock burrs, are more tuned for espresso. And if you want to use this grinder for pour over, I would suggest that you think about the SSP 64mm burrs. Their Lab Suite version 2 or version 3, or also their multi-purpose burrs. Heard a lot of good things about them. I have not tried them myself, but they're supposed to be quite a bit better for pour over than what's stock in the unit itself. Anyway guys, thanks so much for being with me and for watching the review. I hope that you liked it. And until next time, I say happy coffee drinking, happy espresso drinking. Bye now.